Meteorologist Eric Burris here with you for Coffee Talk. We do this 7 days a week, chat about what's going on in the world of weather. Certainly more top of mind, perhaps, with a developing tropical system and a potential threat to the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Before we even get into any of the data, I will tell you, I sure wish that the models had keyed in a little bit more at this point, but they have not. So we are where we are, and we're going to be chatting about it together. There's Bill Cairns over on the Sunday Today show, former Orlando meteorologist, by the way. I believe he was in Central Florida during Charlie, which is, ironic. All right, so here is Tropical Storm Ian. The 8 a.m. intermediate advisory has come in, and winds are at 50 miles an hour, moving to the west-northwest at 12 miles an hour. A couple of things I want to note just on the last few minutes of this satellite presentation. It is certainly taking on more real estate. It's taken the last day or so to grow in size. This is going to be, when it develops, a large system. It's starting to look better organized, and so I would not be surprised if it develops. The Hurricane Center has several models that they run for metrics when it comes to tropical systems, developing tropical systems, and the one thing that theirs has shown is that there is going to be a 90% or better likelihood of rapid intensification. Okay, we're going to talk about all of that, but I just want to do, as Mike Lyons would call, the hits, runs, and errors. In other words, just the overall info on the storm system, okay? Okay, so where are the advisories as of this update? Hurricane watch in effect for the western tip of Cuba. Hurricane warning in effect for the western Cayman Island, okay? And then, of course, there's tropical storm watches further off to the east. All right, so where is this going? Let's take a look at the forecast cone. Here we go. All right, so there's the position as it stands right now. Let's just roll through time together. All right, expected to strengthen and become a hurricane, Category 2 by Monday afternoon. Then it continues, Category 3, Category 4 storm by Tuesday afternoon. Continues to develop, Category 4 by Wednesday early morning, and then as it approaches Florida, the current forecast thinking is that it will weaken just a little bit. And I think that weakening is a bigger asterisk than is being made. Okay, because overall the idea is as the storm system gets into the Gulf, it's going to encounter wind shear, right? We know that wind shear has the opportunity to shear the storm apart, but it also has the opportunity to make the storm go a little more to the right. And the Hurricane Center knows this. The Hurricane Center, what they're doing is they're drawing this right down the middle between the European and the American models. Okay, here's the kind of side-by-side comparison, just to give you an idea. And this is not only going to show the locations, but it will also show the time frame. Okay, so let's just pause here. GFS by Monday has it already as like a major hurricane. Okay, the European is starting to get into hurricane intensity. So the European is a little bit slower. This is Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. All right. You've got, and I'll just bring this full screen so that you can get the best benefit of the doubt. Left side, European model, right side, GFS. All right, so you've got both storms around Cuba through Tuesday. So the computer models, here we are Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So you're talking the next 2 days, the computer models are pretty close together. Then we get into Wednesday early morning. There's like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. This is where the models differ, because the European has the storm system creeping up against the southwest coast of Florida. The GFS, open waters of the Gulf. There's a difference. Here's 4:30 p.m. Wednesday, scraping up the coastline of the Gulf Coast of Florida on the European. The GFS, open waters of the Gulf. Then right there, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, that's when the European model shows the storm system making landfall around Pinellas County. GFS, still open waters. All right? Let's go. 5 p.m. Thursday. Storm system is essentially sitting over the Florida West Coast areas on the European, the GFS still in the open water. And then finally, the GFS by Friday afternoon making landfall. Two very different scenarios, okay? I saw yesterday quite a few people talking about, oh, this isn't going to hit us. Oh, the models are trending. The models are trending. Here's a look at the computer models, and I'm going to take you over the last 4 runs, okay? There's 3 runs ago from about, we'll say, what, Panama City over to Tampa. Oh, there's 2 runs ago. Definite shift off to the west. This is when I saw people saying, oh, it's not going to hit us. It's trending away. Oh, perfect. Meanwhile, myself and almost every meteorologist in Florida was like, okay, let's watch for consistency on that trend. Let's go one more model run. Shifted to the right, just a smidge. That's the 0Z. Let's go one more model run to the current run. Shifted a little to the right and spread. Well, I'm not seeing a continued westward movement. What I'm seeing is some of the models starting to curve more to the right and then the overall envelope widening, meaning that the computer models have even less seemingly of a handle on this. Okay? We talk a lot about this during our coffee talks all the time. You look for 2 things on computer models. You look for consistency run to run, and you look for consistency between models. So if we go back, there was more consistency yesterday than there is right now. They're spreading out again. So the overall idea is definitely lessened. It's tough. This is a tough forecast. The Hurricane Center is outlining the fact that looking ahead to the forecast cone, and that's the cone, just the cone. The Hurricane Center is saying that the forecast cone, I'm going to read you the direct quote because I've tweeted it like 100 times this morning. NHC, are you ready? Here's the direct quote. It cannot be overstated that significant uncertainty remains in Ian's long-range prediction. So, being that Central Florida is still under the cone, we are still directly in the forecast. We may be on the side of it, but the Hurricane Center is essentially saying you've got 2 distinct global model scenarios with the GFS a little on the left side, and it has shifted. It's more here now, and the European more on the right side. So I wouldn't be surprised if the cone gets nudged a little to the right, not much, but a little bit. But remember, if you live in Escambia County, if you live in Charlotte County, you have truthfully an equal chance of this storm system making landfall as you do if you live in the Big Bend, right in the center of the cone. You have an equal chance. That means that for now, we have not zeroed in on a landfall point. The hope is through the day today, we start to zero in more and more on landfall. The hope is today that we start to focus in on where it's going to go. Tim says that Ian, he's a shifty one. It's true. So what's the weather pattern, right? A lot of people have been asking about this. All right. So here's the overall idea. And let me preface this by saying last weekend, I remember so many people were saying to me, hey, this looks like Charlie 2.0. And at that point, I remember saying, let's slow it down. Slow it down there, Tex. We don't know. I think I actually said slow it down there, Tex. But here we are, 8/11 on September the 25th, and I'm saying this looks a lot like Charlie 2.0 in that the same weather players are working together, and the location is obviously where it is. So with that said, here's where we're at. Storm system makes it into the Gulf, okay? And, I'm showing the European. The GFS dynamics are all basically the same. You're going to have, here, let me be all fancy, I'll draw it so that we're proper. You're going to have a cold front situated, okay? Bunch of dry air back behind it. Storms are obviously areas of moisture. Think of a storm like a car. What's the last thing that a car wants while driving on a road? A brick wall, right? Because you drive into a brick wall, you're going to crash. So think of dry air as a brick wall. That cold front, the actual brick wall. So as the storm hits into or gets right up to that dry air, it's like, I'm out, and it's going to start to turn, and it's going to start to turn, and it's going to start to turn. That is the exact scenario. I can't pull up the water vapor quickly, at least enough for Charlie. It would take some digging, but I can tell you, this is it. It feels like it was yesterday, but it was 18 years ago. But I remember looking at almost the identical scenario. Wilma was not much different. So, with that said, the meteorology tells me that the European has a better handle. Okay, remember, the last couple of days, so tell me what's really going to happen. I'm going to tell you my opinion now. Finally, I'm starting to at least get a little more confidence internally, which is, I think the European has a slightly better handle on this. I don't like that because that would mean more impacts on Peninsula Florida. But looking at the charts, I do. That's where I think it is. Even looking at the GFS, if you look, the GFS has that dry air moving south and then slamming and being eroded by the storm. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about all that. The science, to me, is more on the European side. And with that said, okay, the European has also been the most consistent of the models. The GFS has been like, nah, man, we're going to go here, 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 we're going to go here. Whereas the Euro's like, nah, we're going to do this. And there's going to be some shifting and all of that fun stuff, right? But that's where we're at. Now, we could take it a step further and look at the ensembles. Coffee Talk, we dive deep. It's what you get here. The European ensembles are like zeroed in. The European ensembles, let me do this. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to, sausage being made time. Give me a few seconds and I'll put together some graphics. Nope, wrong one. Of course, I load the wrong one. Stand by one, Houston. You know what? I'll just do it. I'll do it the old-fashioned way. Stand by. GFS. All right, we're just going to look at the models. All right. Raw model data. Give me a second. What you're looking at, by the way, this is raw data. So this is not the stuff that we pretty up for TV. This is going to be the stuff that we look at internally. Everybody say hi to Cam Tran, by the way.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
All right. Gulf of Mexico.
Hope you guys are having a great day.
Here, sorry.
I'll let you.
There you are.
No, I don't want to take over your conversation.
No, just you say hi. We've been bouncing ideas back and forth and talking all about it. All right, so here's the GFS global. All right, I've got it zoomed in so that we can at the very least kind of get a close enough shot. So this is the operational GFS, all right? And I'm just going to go right into the Gulf of Mexico because we pretty much have that in the bag, right? Like, yeah, we pretty much know that that's going to happen. All right? Where's landfall according to the GFS? Right there. That's the 6Z run. Let's go one model run back. A little further west, let's go 2 model runs back. About the same spot, let's go 3 model runs back. Even further west, let's go 4 model runs back. East. So what we noticed was yesterday, started east, had like 2 model runs way west, and then has been nudging back east ever since. Yep. Okay, there's that. That's the GFS model. All right? Let's look and see what the GFS ensemble members indicate. For those of you that are new, what is an ensemble? What you're looking at there, those are the GFS ensembles. There are 30 different, think of it like ice cream shop. There are 30 different flavors of the GFS, each one a little different. But there is power in looking at them together because it takes the regular GFS and it gives you the opportunity to see, well, what if we ran it 50 different ways, or in this case, 30 different ways? What would it show? All right, so here, the ensemble members are spreading, but you've got a pretty decent amount kind of Big Bend, like Pinellas North through the Big Bend. So you've got, you've kind of got two camps. One camp is like the Panhandle, about half of the ensemble members. The other half are into like the Big Bend or areas like around Panhandle, Pinellas further to the north. Okay, so the GFS, the operational GFS, is actually kind of an outlier within itself. All right, so that's an interesting point. Let's go back. Let's switch over to the European. All right, this, oh, I did the ensemble. Stand by. Stand by. See, when we do TV, the idea is to not have to click around, obviously, so that it makes better TV. When you're on Coffee Talk, this is off the cuff, friends. So you're going to be getting a little more raw, but it takes some time. Okay, this is the 6Z European. Only goes out 90 hours, but that's about what we need right now. So that is our 87. I mean, that's like right into Bradenton as a 973 low. So what it is it's a little weaker overall, going into Suncoast of Florida. All right, that's the 6Z. Let's go back 0Z. A little stronger, but still around the Suncoast. Let's go back 2 runs. Basically the same area. Let's go back 3 runs. Same area. Let's go back 4 runs. That doesn't go out far enough, but anyway, you get the idea. The European has absolutely been saying for like 5, pretty consistently, Florida, West Coast Peninsula, Sun Coast, Nature Coast, somewhere in there, okay? So you've got the European. Now let's look at the European ensembles. I love when there's trolls. I love when people try and troll during weather events. It makes me laugh. Somebody said, how can anyone take you seriously? You've been wrong every time. Obviously, that's not the case. Go back to your bridge, troll. Okay, here is the ensemble plots for the European. And, I mean, I would say 3/4 of them take it in toward Big Bend, Nature Coast, West Coast, Sun Coast area, right? So, the models, while all said and done, are not in agreement, but when you peel back the curtain and start to get into the specificity of it, you can at least see that there is no path set in stone. And that's what I'm trying to show. I'm not trying to say we're going to get slammed. I'm not trying to say Tampa's going to get slammed. I'm not trying to say Panama City is going to get slammed. What I'm saying is that if you are on the left side of the cone, if you're on the right side of the cone, you have an equal chance of this impacting you, like directly impacting you, okay? So where are we, okay? This, I said yesterday, this perhaps is my favorite graphic I've ever made in tropical scenarios. Right now, forecast confidence is still low. The hope is today that we'll get that improved. Hopefully we'll get into a medium confidence. It's not there yet. But with that said, today is when we are going to start topping off our hurricane kits. Now, we talked at length this morning about how it seems like people are panic buying, and that is absolutely not what we need to be doing. Think about, what is a hurricane kit? The idea is, well, if you get hit by a hurricane, you need to be able to support yourself for like a week, a couple days, just to make sure that you've got enough food and water for a couple days. I plan for a week, and make sure that that way if you need emergency crews to like clean up tree limbs, the stores to reopen and all that, That's what you're looking for. That's what a hurricane kit is. It's not to buy all the water on the planet and bankrupt yourself, drain your savings. It's just to make sure, okay? All right, so that's number one today. Hopefully we get that. Right now the forecast confidence is still low. Hopefully we'll get it up to medium. I personally hope for that. All right, tomorrow, storm prep. And I plan on doing all of this. My hurricane kit, though, was completed June 1st, so we are good. Meat can stay frozen for 6 months, right?
I hope you have a cooler. That's all.
I have solar with a battery.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm fine there.
Okay.
Yeah, but like beef and chicken can be frozen for 6 months.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's not. It's, June, July, August, September, October. So it's like 3.5, 4 months. It doesn't even need to taste good, like as long as it's not rotten. Okay. So anyway, yeah. I mean, I've got plenty of meat. I've got plenty of rice and beans because my family loves that. This is all the stuff. This is all the stuff you need. That's a hurricane kit. Okay. Okay. That's done. Tomorrow, my plan is to look around the house and just secure things like that. Bring in lawn, not necessarily even bring it in, but bring it up against the house, lawn, furniture, that sort of thing. Just so that, again, as we get more and more confidence, we can know whether or not we should prepare or not. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at. Tuesday, we would be then finishing prep. And then Wednesday, the storm itself would arrive. Okay? All right, so that's kind of where we're at, okay? Now it's time for the questions, and there's going to be a lot of people asking a lot of random questions. I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't know where it's going, okay? You're going to ask about your town, your county, and I'm not going to have the answer, and it's not because I don't like you, but when the computer models look the way that they do, there's the current run. It could go anywhere in there. We have an idea. We've got an idea of the dynamics. Here's a look, just to give you a perspective. Here's a look at our futurecast model compared to the National Hurricane Center's track. And I want you to notice our futurecast model turning more to the right. You see that? It's a little more to the east. You see that there? All right, it's a little more to the east than the official Hurricane Center forecast. So our futurecast, our internal futurecast, actually lines up a bit more with the European than it does with the GFS. Okay, and I could show this to you 1,000 ways past Sunday, right? There's so many different ways to do this. Here's a look at the spaghetti model plots in relation to the Hurricane Center cone. Hurricane Center kind of trying to split the difference a little bit. They're doing the best they can, but there's a lot of question here. There's a lot of question, okay? All right, stats are up. Let's take some questions. When do you expect to be able to give county by county information? Well, for starters, when the forecast kind of gets a little more tightened. So I would think, like 48 hours out. Honestly, I wish that I could give you better information, but that's where we're at. All right? Matthew, forget track. Are the models perhaps not strengthening it enough? That water is hot and the shear will be low. Well, it's taken a little while longer to develop, and I'm going to get a little quieter because I'm going to just start using my indoor voice. I'm cranking up the volume here because they've got a Today Show cut-in. Cam is nice enough to do this Today Show cut-in so that I can stay with you. But so the models, what's interesting, you're asking about the intensity models. The intensity models are perhaps the only thing that is in line with itself. The fuel out ahead is like jet fuel. So the models are just about all tight in the idea that we're going to get into Category 3, even Category 4 intensity. And don't think that this can't get even stronger. Intensity models are the weakest, the least reliable of all the models, okay? So that's kind of where we're at, all right? At what point will Orlando International Airport start seeing wind weather that they would start to cancel flights? It depends on the exact forecast path. So let me do this. Based on, based on the current forecast, this is kind of the the percentages of tropical storm and hurricane force winds. Okay, so based on that kind of timeline, Wednesday evening is when we would think this is the likely arrival of some of those tropical storm force winds. And then, of course, Wednesday evening through Thursday through Friday, okay? All right, Kevin is asking, Port St. Lucie is out of the cone. Is there a possibility that we can be in the cone again? Absolutely. Computer models are going to shift left and right, and that's the way it goes. But, you know, we look at the cone on a tighter angle there, and yeah, Port St. Lucie's out of the cone, Palm Beach County's out of the cone. There is a possibility that it nudges to the right, okay? Mike says, Orlando, you were lucky to have this man. Thank you, Mr. Mike. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good chatting with you this morning. Good morning, Micah says over on Facebook. How quickly will it pass through Florida once making landfall? That's the other struggle, right? If the trough picks it up, it could accelerate it. If the trough is a little slower to pick it up, it could really slow it down. And the European is indicating a slower system. So we could be talking about some significant rainfall totals. Look at the different models here in terms of rainfall totals. Okay, and we're just going to roll through these next couple of days. European showing especially north and west areas, because those are the areas that would be closest to the European path. Deep reds, okay, those deep reds, that aligns with a foot of rain. Even the GFS, which keeps it away from us, is showing at, you know, 5 inches or so of rain. So, you know, this really is a kind of questionable scenario. Here's the Hurricane Center's chance for hurricane force winds, okay? Now, why are these numbers low? Because as confidence builds, they're going to be able to increase these numbers. So for right now, we're under like a 5%. Our western areas are only under a 5% chance of hurricane force winds, right? Tropical storm force percentages, though, certainly are higher. Let's plot that and kind of illustrate that idea. For us, our western areas under like a 40% chance of tropical storm force winds. Okay, so, you know, as time goes by, we're going to have better confidence in the overall pathways of the storm system, right? All right? Said I? Said I. All right, next question. Would the dry air still weaken it if it were to hit the west coast versus the Big Bend? So, Ashley, that's the question, right? Like, does the upper level winds shear it, or do the upper level winds steer it? With Charlie, it steered it, right? Yeah. Robert's asking, which model, Euro or GFS, is more reliable? They've both had their good, they've both had their bad, right? Jenny, hey Eric, is my doctor's office going to be closed on Wednesday? You know, for now, it looks like Wednesday would be okay. It has slowed down. So if anything, I mean, look at the timing there, right? If anything, I would say Wednesday is going to be just like some squally weather. Thursday, to me, would be the day that the bad weather arrives. It keeps slowing down, okay, which, you know, changes the dynamics of everything. Man. All right, Dawn, long question here. Good gravy. Hi, Eric. Really hoping that you can help me answer my question. Maybe it isn't answerable. I live on the Gulf Coast in Tarpon Springs. Love that area. I'll be there in about a month. And I'm trying to determine worst case scenario with storm surges. There a formula to determine how far up my property it will come. I'm sorry, I don't even know how to ask properly. My house is on the water, but it's been lifted for leveling purposes, so it's about 2.5 feet off ground, and my house sits back from the water's edge about 600 feet. I know where the water comes up with a high tide of 3.9 feet, but I can't wrap my mind around the potential 11 feet. Wow, Dawn, great question. So the Hurricane Center starts putting out storm surge products, and one of the products that they put out is like reasonable water rise. Hold that thought, because we're not there yet. But Dawn, when that comes, you know, when we're a day, 2, 3 days out, you know, honestly, when we're like 2 days out, let's start talking again. I want to help you out. I know there's 2,000 plus people here. I want to help you out particularly because that's a great question. And being that you're on the Gulf Coast, I want to make sure to take care of that. So always ask that question, make it long and big so that it sticks out for me because, again, 2 days out, I want to be able to get to that, okay? Bezo, can Ian cross over the state to the East Coast? Yeah, it could make a harder turn. Like, this is the forecast cone as it is now, but it could go more that direction, right? It could go more that direction. You know, it's too early to really key in on the turn. And it's like, the turn. All right, now I can talk louder because you're off TV.
Yeah, and they need your mic.
They need my mic? Off or just?
Just off, yeah, or just power down.
Oh, I think I powered it down.
I think he said you had on stuff.
Is it on? No, it's off.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't.
Do you need his mic, Bob? I'm doing the cut-in, not him.
I'm going to do the 11 o'clock cut-in.
Oh, I thought I'm doing it.
No, I got you.
No.
Oh,
No. Go do your thing.
Yeah, to be continued.
We're arguing about
who's working. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we don't know the turn, and if going back to the Hurricane Charlie mentality, right? Like if you remember with Charlie, and let me just pull this up. Okay, Charlie's a good analog because it had a very similar kind of path. This was the actual movement of Hurricane Charlie. But those of us that were in town, the line pointed to like Tampa. And everybody was like, oh, Tampa, Tampa, Tampa. And then the thing started turning to the right. And then everyone was like, oh my gosh, it caught us off guard. Here's the problem. The Hurricane Center had Fort Myers in the cone. And that's why, I'm going to show it again, that's why everybody in this forecast cone has an equal chance of landfall, okay? Everybody in that forecast cone, everybody in this forecast cone has an equal chance. So if you zoom in here and you're just talking about Cuba, right? Everybody here from the left side of the cone to the right side of the cone, there is an equal chance of those areas getting impacted. And also, that's only the center of circulation. That does not take into effect the fact that these storms are not one point. These storms are miles and miles and miles and miles wide. Okay, so that's another element to keep in mind. Lots of questions. I'm just going to scroll through. Will it be gone Saturday, Port Canaveral? Should be. I hope so. I hope so. I mean, that's Friday. By Saturday, it should be lifting away, right? I have Mary, I'm in Panama City and stayed for Michael. Not a good choice. Learned my lesson about supplies. No running water for 2 weeks, no power for 3 weeks. National Guard couldn't get in for 2 to 3 days. We needed water for everything. Washing hands, sponge baths, drinking. I learned why they tell us to fill up bathtubs, to be able to bail some out for baths, etc. No gasoline station for weeks, no cell phone service well over a week. This time I'm taking Hurricane Kit much more seriously, so I second your encouragement to do that. Thank you for these talks. Mary, thank you, my pleasure, and my honor to serve truthfully. Okay, Alan says Tampa is in trouble. I would say that nobody is quote unquote in trouble yet, but Tampa's in the forecast. We all are, and I see on social, TV stations are scattered in different metropolitan areas, and I follow as many Florida meteorologists as I can because it's good information and it gives perspective. I see the Tampa meteorologists, I even see the Miami meteorologists are all saying the same thing, which is do not think that you're out of the cone until you're out of the cone. Do not think that, like the Tampa folks especially are like, yeah, because on this product, I'll show you. On this product, I can turn on the line. Let me turn on, we turned it off at WESH because I hate the line. I think it's a terrible, terrible element. All right, so here's the line. Just for argument, I turned it on, just for argument. So if you show this, okay, if you show this, sure, everybody's going to be like, oh, I got you. So it's going to stay way off of the coastline of Tampa. And I'm reading these Tampa meteorologists are all like, do not focus on that line. During Charlie, that was what really hosed a lot of people. And I can't speak to any TV stations, but for us, there are very, very, very seldom situations that we show the line. Most of the time, we show just the cone because it's the cone that is the important part. Anywhere in that cone has an equal chance of the center moving in, not the rest. Okay? I feel like I'm sitting in a kindergarten class, Sean says. I mean, you know, to each their own, I suppose. Let's see here. Is Coco Brevard going to get the tornadoes and high wind? Ugh, I hate tornadoes. Too early, Nicole, to tell, and I'm sorry. Ryan, when do you think Ian will tighten up and start to rapidly intensify? Is that today thing or more of a tomorrow thing? I think it starts today. Just looking at the satellite presentation, it's starting. I mean, it's got the broader circulation. It seems like it's starting, and actually, the sun is, like, I haven't been outside yet today. The sun is out, right? So that means we should have a viz. Let's key into the viz. Yeah, so there's your viz. Don't have much, but the viz is there. Don't have much. This isn't 1 hour's worth of data. Yeah, what's cool, though, is if you look on the right side, like out in here, you've got quite, like, look out in that area. Let me rewind it. There's some neat bursting cloud tops out there, right? I love the meteor. Ooh, even look around here. You can see some impressive cloud tops firing up. Look at that. This 1 minute satellite data is just incredible. But yes, it is, I think that it's starting today. I think that today it's, oh, I hit the wrong button. I think it's going to start to be a today thing. Yeah. All right, let's see here. So many comments. I apologize. I'm getting to as many as I can. Adam says Jim Cantori isn't Clearwater Beach. Of course, because why not? He's staged here, and if he needs to go elsewhere, he can go elsewhere. Why can't the cone be much wider if the uncertainties are still wide open? Gilbert, that is an incredible question. What the Hurricane Center does is they base the cone off of their forecast error for the 5 years previous. And they will note that there's a significant time where day 4 and 5, the center of circulation goes outside of that cone. So as the forecast gets better, the cone gets smaller. If the forecast is a little worse, the cone would get a little bigger for the next year. So the cone is much smaller than it was in, Hurricane Charlie era, but, the forecast cone, I'll just show you these numbers. Meteorologist Camtran put this graphic together, okay? So here's the cone error as it stands right now, okay? This is the average error, right? But then when you look at 96 and 120, you're talking 200 miles, right? And so if you're talking 200 miles, I mean, that's a pretty decent amount. That's a pretty decent amount. All right, more questions. Please talk about RV residents in Central Florida. So Cornelia, for right now, we still are watching and waiting. Like today's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're still at like 4 days from impacts because this has kept slowing down. So for now, we talking about it, it's just watching. Right? Tristan, please, Eric. I mean, you can beg and plead, but it's not me ignoring you. It's just there's thousands and thousands of people in here. Tristan, have a cruise leaving Thursday from Port Canaveral. Chances it's canceled. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's going to be canceled or not, but I would say that chances are they're watching like crazy. Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. I know, Tristan, you booked this cruise and you want to go on vacation. I haven't booked a cruise and I want to go on vacation. But there's a major hurricane in the vicinity. So at the very least, I need you to emotionally prepare that this cruise may not happen. I mean, it may happen. It may not happen, right? I just need you emotionally there. It's kind of like me last week emotionally preparing to have a bunch of overtime work because there was going to be a storm. I'm supposed to be off yesterday and today hanging with the family. Oh, well. What am I drinking? I didn't see you since Irma. Wow, 5 years, looking great. Thank you, I appreciate it. Premier Protein. It's a protein drink. Tiffany's asking, what is the worst side of the hurricane? The east or west side? The east side of the storm system is the most intense side of the hurricane, yeah. Can you show us the high ridge? Yeah, so the overall weather pattern that's steering it, right there. Big trough is moving in, and essentially, you're going to have a cold front right in there. The exact same steering scenario from Hurricane Charlie, exact same steering scenario from Hurricane Wilma. And you know, we've mentioned this, so might as well. The A-Bear box, for all that keep track, there are two A-Bear boxes. This one is the one we usually watch for late in the season. There's the A-Bear box, and yeah, the A-Bear box usually is an indicator. It's not perfect, nothing is, but many decent storms that move through there like to strike the Florida Peninsula. Some of the examples, Charlie, Francis, Wilma, and Irma. Lots of others that you may not be as familiar with, but yeah, this storm system is going to be going right through the A-Bear box. So for those that are interested in that sort of thing, yeah. Ryan's asking, when's the next flight into Ian? Do we have any flights now? I love the data you get from those. Agreed. There are 2 flights right now inside of the storm system. This is a big old honking graphic, so give the computer a few seconds to load. Give it a second. Oh man, I'm done with my protein shake. Michelle, thoughts on Marion County? It's beautiful up there. I have no idea if the storm is going to hit you. Models have not keyed in yet. All right, we're almost there. The screen went black. All right, we're almost there. Perfect. All right, so what in tarnation are we looking at here? This is raw data from the 2 Hurricane Hunter missions that are ongoing right now. Let me zoom in and show you. So you've got in green, that's the NOAA Hurricane Hunter, located right there right now. That's a P3 Orion. In red, you've got the United States Air Force. That is a WC-130, I believe, J model for the nerds. All right, so everything's color-coded based on this. So in terms of pressure, we had a 999 millibar low around 6:30-ish this morning off of the P3, okay? We have not gotten that at this point. The most recent was right around 1,002 or so millibars off the P3. So that was what, like 1,000 to 1,001, which is what they went with for the intermediate advisory. Okay. In terms of winds, they've not come up. You always look for pressure first, because the way these storms work, the pressure drops and then the winds come up. So for me, looking at Hurricane Hunter data, I'm watching for that pressure to drop. So 1,001, you know, maybe the 999 was suspect. We've been on the air, so I didn't get a chance to look. But the lowest recently was about 1,001, 1,000 millibar, about 1,001, 1,000 millibars. So I would look for the next pass. And they're both, both flights are outbound. And then what's going to happen is they're both going to turn back inbound at the same time and try to get data. So the center of circulation is like right in there. That's where they're intersecting. And that's the next time that they fly that direction, that's when we're going to be watching for pressure. Because again, pressure drops and then you start to look for the winds to rise. And the pressure is kind of that first indicator, okay? There's no such thing as a cold front September in Florida, at least in terms of bringing us cold. But in terms of definition and in terms of meteorological elements, absolutely there's cold fronts. Case in point, let's just look at the current temperatures outside. Now, things have started to warm, but let's see where we're at. I mean, it's 71. Let's look at the lows. All right, no such thing as a cold front in Florida, asterisk, but let's look at this morning's low temperatures. Hopefully this hasn't been overwritten. Waiting. It's gathering the data. Give it a minute. Okay. We got down to 66 in Ocala. That's better than a sharp poke in the eye, you ask me. Right? I mean, man, that's decent.
That's fall.
That's fall, yeah. Catherine, me emotionally preparing to not have power. It's just one of those things. That's the thing, to me, that's the thing that I'm just 100% against. Like tropical stuff, it stinks. And if I've been a Florida resident my entire life. And I've seen the memes and they're so accurate. I'm not afraid of a hurricane. Like, we'll prepare, we'll deal with it. I cannot get prepared for no power for weeks. That's the part that's like, oh my God, that's awful. Awful. Kelly, where is the euro trending to? The euro has not wavered. The euro continues to show the storm system scraping up against the Florida coastline for there it is 1 p.m. Wednesday. There it is making landfall like 6 a.m. Thursday. So the European on the left side is like Sun Coast, Tampa, Nature Coast landfall. The GFS is more panhandle, but the GFS has been trending to the east a little bit. Lindsay, my local news stations are focused on this thing hitting the panhandle. I'm in Southeast Florida. I can't speak to what they're showing you. This is data. I am not making this up. I didn't draw these blobs and say like, no, let's have some fun. Certainly the European forecast, which has been the most consistent, is the least fun for me personally, because that would put more impacts closer to me. So don't love that. But I'm going to show you data, and we're going to look at it together. Let's see here. Michael, can we send some Saharan dust to break up the hurricane? Yeah, right? Please? If only. What about the riverfront Merritt Island? What can we expect? We flooded from Irma. Should we expect the same? Shauna, I am sorry that I can't tell you yet. I'm not holding it back, but it's just too early to tell. Denny, y'all, please stop freaking out the Central Florida newbies. This isn't going to touch us in the middle. You sure about that, Denny? Would you be willing to put money on it? I wouldn't be willing to put money on it either way. You want to put down? I won't. I don't know where it's going to go. It's not set in stone. I have an idea. But to make that statement and say it isn't going to touch us in the middle, I can't make that statement. Can you? I don't know. Ryan, are they at the same altitude? No, they're keeping altitude separation. So yeah. Beth, confidence in long-range forecast? Well, the Hurricane Center's quote is, and I quote, "It cannot be overstated that significant uncertainty remains in Ian's long-range prediction." Ugh, frustrating. Frustrating forecast. Brandy says babies will be born due to barometric pressure. And that's a terrible name for a baby. That's funny. My Alexander was born as Isaias went off of our East Coast. Yeah. I was literally sleeping. Were you working here yet?
No.
Oh my God. I was. Oh my, you didn't know this?
No.
So I was supposed to be at work at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. something. Kellyanne had just started. Okay. She was, I think it was like her first week. God's honest truth. It was Tony and Alex were working at night. Kellyanne and I were supposed to do the next morning. And I was in sleep already. Jeannie had gone to her sister's baby shower, I think it was. And my alarm was set for like midnight. Story time real fast, obviously. My alarm was set for midnight, and she wakes me up at about 9 o'clock. And you have to understand, I'm not like, I'm a grumpy person in a loving way, but I'm a grumpy person. So when she woke me up and I saw it was 9, my immediate reaction was, if you're waking me up to reach something you can't reach in a cabinet, we're going to have words. That was my immediate, because I was tired and I'm just grumpy in general.
You grumpy?
I know. So I wake up and I'm like, yeah. And she said, I think I'm in labor. And this was like 6 weeks, like 5 weeks early, 6 weeks early. Both my kids came early. And so she said that and I'm like, what? And she's like, I think I'm having contractions and I think I've been having them all day, but I've been afraid to tell you.
Aww.
And I immediately, no joke, without even saying, oh my God, without being like, oh, this is great, without being, oh, are you okay? I immediately pick up my phone and call Manalfi. And I'm like, dude, I think we're hosed here. And he's like, bada bing, what do you mean?
He did not say bada bing.
I don't remember if he said bada bing. And I'm like, dude, I think Jeannie's in labor, and you don't miss your child being born.
No way.
So they sent Elise home, and Elise came in to do the morning show with Kellyanne. And Tony was by himself that night, and we had Alexander was born 2 a.m. that morning.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was 9 p.m. Alexander was born at like 2:15 a.m.
Oh, I didn't know.
So Brandy says babies will be born due to barometric pressure. I can agree with that. And it was a funny anecdote, like as the storm was going up the East Coast, everyone's like, oh, and by the way, if you're curious why, Burris isn't here contributing to the chaos, it's because he's in a hospital room with his wife. So anyway, just funny little anecdote. I think it's kind of funny. Mm-hmm. At the time, I did not. At the time, I was like...
That's so sad. That's how we think as vets. We're like, oh no!
Right? Well, that was my first call. And then as soon as I did that, then it was, now I need to find childcare for Eric so that we can go to the hospital. Ashley's asking, can it really weaken from a Category 4 to a Category 1? What the Hurricane Center is forecasting there is that it moves into an environment with wind shear, but that it shears it instead of moving it. And that's another element, I think, that's relatively uncertain, right? Like the Hurricane Center says that it's going to go right into the shear, but meteorological wisdom would state that it would just ride. It would just move it.
Yeah.
So,
We'll see.
yeah, there's nothing set in stone here. Today, I hope we get more confidence, but right now we're still in the low confident deal. Truthfully. Oh, man. Beth says, I remember. Sharonda says, retrograde babies.
Retrograde baby.
Oh, my God. How funny, right? I have husband and children flying in from New York on Tuesday morning into Orlando. Yeah, Tuesday I'll be fine. Tuesday I'll be fine. Let's see here. Karen, I'm not going to update any other storm. I love you, and I'm sorry. They're not hitting us. They're not coming anywhere near us, so we're not going to focus on them. There's other stuff out there. Yeah. Luis says, I love hurricanes, no work. We could put you to work at WESH. Oh, man. We could put you to work at WESH. Good morning, Melissa says. I live in Illinois, and I'm to leave to drive to Jacksonville around 3 a.m. Saturday morning. So since we don't know how much damage would be done, should I reschedule my trip? I mean, we don't know. We don't know the path. We don't know damage. We don't know anything. Honestly, we just don't. So I would say, if you can, why not? Because either way, if you're driving, no matter what this path is, odds are you're going to drive through whatever it is. So that doesn't look great, right? Yeah. Supposed to fly into Orlando Friday. What are my odds? I mean, Friday, I wouldn't get my hopes up. I would emotionally prepare for that not happening, I mean, if it happens, cool, Why not? Carolyn says, I'll work at WESH, and Carolyn's a meteorologist. Carolyn went to weather school.
Come.
Cam's like, come, let's nerd out on the data together.
Yeah, do it.
Bob's like, you can run cameras. If she's a meteorologist, we're putting her in the weather department.
Yeah, we need help.
But anybody that is not a meteorologist, you could run cameras. April says, so torn. I have a flight arriving into Orlando 9:30 on Thursday. Should I move it to Wednesday afternoon? If you can, yeah. Gina, can you show the rain bands over the projected path? How far out we will see wind rain? When it comes to timing, this is about the best I could do. I mean, I could show you the GFS, I could show you the European, but this is the timing, okay? And just to give you an idea, but that is a good idea. Let's look at the different paths, okay? So Wednesday evening is about when we think tropical storm type conditions could move in. All right, so let's do this. Oh my God, Burris is about to hype. Shut up. Not going to hype.
Troll.
I am going to show you data, though. All right, raw model data, so don't freak out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you based on, let's do this. Let's set it up this way. Based on the scenarios, okay? So based on this, just take this as an example. Based on that, that's the European landfall and the GFS position. So what I want to do is I want to take you on both models and show you kind of the wind forecasts, okay? So let's do that. Let me turn this around, wind, and I'm going to do the swath. Perfect. All right. So based on what you're seeing there, what do the models say would be the wind swath, okay? European, it makes landfall just to our west. GFS continues up into the panhandle. So let's start with the GFS. That's the wind swath for the GFS. If the GFS plays out in our area, look at that. Maybe some tropical storm force gusts out west. If it hits the panhandle, that's not really an impact for us. Let's look at the European though. If it hits and kind of scrapes up along the west coast and then makes its way inland, look at the difference there, right? You're talking hurricane force winds, especially in our western areas. And according to the European, like Sarasota, Bradenton, 100 to 120 mile per hour gusts. Those are just two individual models. Don't take any of that to the bank. Okay, I show it just to give you an idea of how the Hurricane Center really is stuck between a rock and a hard place here, because they are looking at those scenarios and they're trying to put together a forecast and saying that basically the uncertainty is high. We just don't know where the thing is going to go. What happened to Hermine? It's out there. It's like a depression or even a wave at this point. Doesn't matter. It's not coming here. That's all we need to know. All right?
Post-tropical.
It's post-tropical. Yeah, Hermine's done. It was short. It stole the name Hermine, which is hilarious. Now, there is another problem, and we haven't really talked about this yet. So this is Ian. The letter I is the most retired name in the entire alphabet. Okay, when we think of retired I storms, Irma, Ida, I believe Irene, there's a lot of retired I-named storms. And the reason is by the time you get to the I's in the alphabet, that's usually when peak heat is out there in the tropics and they're bad storms, right?
Yeah.
So
Isidore.
Ivan, Isidore, Irma, Ike, I remember Ike, Isabel, Igor, Iris, yeah. Obviously, not all of them hit us.
Iota, oh my God.
Iota, oh yeah.
Greek alphabet.
Yep, so yeah.
Ingrid.
Yep. Euro has been consistent for a while now, since early this week. It's true, Brandon. There's something to be said for that. But, the fact that the Euro and the GFS are apart, that is no bueno, okay? That is no bueno. So what we want is the computer models to finally key in. And once they do, then at least we can have an idea. Brendan says Eastern shift possible again. Thursday's landfall. Brenda, yeah, I mean, shifts are going to happen. The Hurricane Center, I'm loading up the recon plot. That's why it's going to sit there blurry for a second while it's trying to load it. The Hurricane Center's job is not to jump on shifts. It's their job to ease directional changes. All right? All right, so let's see. Let's zoom in and see where they are. Okay, so you've got NOAA so they're still probably about 20-ish or so minutes from making their next core pass. But we're watching the recon plots. My birthday is 9/29, just what I always wanted. Not. I can feel that. I can feel you there. Rosalind is asking, can you compare this storm versus Charlie? Oh, we have, we can, and we will. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, let me pull this up. Stand by. We'll do it again. I haven't shown this one, though, this morning. All right, so there's kind of the comparisons. All right, so there's Charlie with the kind of forecast as it is right now. So you've got the Ian forecast. We put the line on there just to give perspective, and there's the Charlie actual path. And we put the line on there to give you an idea. But remember, Charlie was supposed to, if you drew that line, Charlie was supposed to make a landfall in Tampa, and it didn't. It was Fort Myers. So that's one of the things, like, lesson learned from Charlie, do not look at just the line. There's a very rare cases where we show that line. Most of the time, we do not, and for good measure, because no matter where you are in the cone, you have an equal chance of having the center of circulation moving over you. We in Central Florida, just about all of us, are in the cone. Right? It's not an easy one. This is seriously. But I remember 18 years ago. It's funny because I feel like it was yesterday. It wasn't, but yeah. Same scenario. But we didn't have as good a modeling as we do today. And frankly, memory states that they did not fly as many recon flights as they are. I mean, the Hurricane Center is just going ballistic, flying almost 24-hour recon. And then it's not only at the surface, they're also flying in the upper altitudes, dropping radiosondes down, and all of this data getting shoved into the computer models. They had hoped, let me find this discussion. Stand by, because I think it's such an interesting element. I want to read it vis-a-vis from what the Hurricane Center said. Forecast discussion, okay. Hold on, okay. Where is it? Oh, okay, here we go. Here. Ready? And I quote, even with the addition of the NOAA G4 synoptic surveillance dropson data and additional upper air balloon releases across much of the United States, the spread in the guidance has not narrowed from before. That's the Hurricane Center's way of being like, darn it, we still haven't figured this out yet. And then they go on to say, another NOAA G4 synoptic surveillance mission is already underway collecting data around the storm, which will hopefully reduce some of the model spread. That's the Hurricane Center's way of saying, we're going to try it again and hope we get more data and enough data that the models start to agree. Because that, at the end of the day, if you look at everything together, this is the meat and potatoes. When these two come into agreement, then we can start getting that better idea. Until that happens, man, and it better happen soon. Like, we better start to figure this out soon because we're not getting further away from landfall, you know? Man, oh man. Man, oh man. I love seeing the balloons going up from Spokane to Georgia. Oh yeah. Can you put a model from Charlie with the path? I just did that, Tammy. I have a flight for this Monday. There's still time, or that? Oh, no. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. I mean, that image there is the two models, 7 a.m. Thursday. So by Monday, you're fine. Holly, how bad could we feel the wrath of Ian in Winter Haven, Legoland? Not there yet. We're not there yet. All right? Steve, what's your gut telling us is the better chances? The European has been consistent. The GFS is not. That speaks, number one. Number two, meteorologically, I think that the European isn't as far-fetched as the GFS. You know, to me, if I lived anywhere from like the Sun Coast through the Big Bend, I would be really watching this. Really, that's me. You know, I'm starting to feel a little bit of that focus, but we're still not confident on its eventuality. But as my brother says, it's going to rain. That much I think we know. Depends on where, right? All right? All right, people, it's 9:06. Enough, okay? I could talk all day. We're going to be monitoring this all day, all right? Next update from the Hurricane Center comes in at 11 o'clock, and we will have it for you live on WESH 2 and, of course, WESH.com, all right? Listen, thanks for joining. Be the sunshine in someone else's day. We will be tweeting, Facebooking, posting left and right all day long, all right? All right, bye, guys.